Good evening and welcome to another edition of Japan Journal. I'm your host, Mal Adams, coming to you from the Media Arts Lab in beautiful downtown Kagawa City, Shizuoka Prefecture, in the center of the Japanese archipelago, where we keep our eyes on the pulse of global events with a special focus on how they resonate with the international community here in Japan. Tonight, we delve into a momentous event that has stirred the hearts of millions: former First Lady Michelle Obama's recent speech at the Democratic National Convention, a speech that will be remembered as a call to action in this crucial election year. This is not just a review, it's an analysis, an exploration of the deeper philosophical currents that flow beneath her words. We will break down the 10 major talking points of her speech and examine their significance, not just for America, but for the world. And of course, we'll show you some of the most powerful excerpts from that speech for those who may have missed it. This episode is especially for those of you who support Kamala Harris and believe in the transformative potential of her presidency. So let's get started, shall we?
Hello, Chicago! Yeah. All right. Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. We're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us and continue pursuing the unfinished promise of this great nation, the dream that our parents and grandparents fought and died and sacrificed for. America, hope is making a comeback.
Michelle Obama began her speech by underscoring the urgency of this moment. She spoke about the stakes of this election, which she framed as nothing less than a battle for the soul of the nation. But what does this mean on a deeper level, in philosophical terms? Obama was invoking a form of existentialism, a call to recognize the importance of individual action in shaping collective destiny. This moment is a crossroads where the decisions we make as individuals will define the future of democracy itself. Let's take a look at this powerful excerpt from her speech where she conveys this urgency.
We don't get to change the rules, so we always win. If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. No. We put our heads down. We get to work. In America, we do something. And throughout her entire life, that's what we've seen from Kamala Harris. The steel of her spine, the steadiness of her upbringing, the honesty of her example, and yes, the joy of her laughter and her light. It couldn't be more obvious. Of the two major candidates in this race, only Kamala Harris truly understands the unseen labor and unwavering commitment that has always made America great.
One of the most resonant themes in Obama's speech was the power of empathy. She emphasized the need for a president who understands the struggles of ordinary people and who can feel their pain and respond with compassion. Empathy, as she describes it, is not just a personal trait, but a political philosophy, a recognition that governance must be rooted in the lived experiences of the people. This is a profound reminder that leadership is not about power over others, but service to them. Let's analyze how empathy, as a governing principle, could transform the political landscape under a Harris presidency. Michelle Obama did not shy away from highlighting the importance of truth in this election. In a world where misinformation can spread like wildfire, the truth has become a battleground. Obama's insistence on truth reflects a commitment to intellectual integrity, a philosophical stance that insists on the alignment of words with reality. Truth-telling, she argues, is foundational to trust and is a non-negotiable element of leadership. Here is an excerpt where she passionately defends the value of truth.
Now, unfortunately, we know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be Black. Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those Black jobs?
Decency and respect are not just niceties, they are the bedrock of a functional society. Michelle Obama highlighted how these values have eroded in recent years, and she made a powerful case for their restoration. This aligns with the concept of moral philosophy, where the dignity of each individual is respected and upheld. In a Harris presidency, these values could lead to a more inclusive and compassionate governance model. As the first Black First Lady, Michelle Obama spoke with authority on the role of women in leadership. She presented Kamala Harris not just as a candidate, but as a symbol of what is possible when women, particularly women of color, step into their power. This is a call to recognize the importance of diverse leadership, a philosophical stance rooted in the belief that different perspectives enrich decision-making processes and lead to more just outcomes. Watch this powerful moment now where she champions the role of women in leadership.
Kamala Harris and I built our lives on those same foundational values. Even though our mothers grew up an ocean apart, they shared the same belief in the promise of this country. That's why her mother moved here from India at 19. It's why she taught Kamala about justice, about the obligation to lift others up, about our responsibility to give more than we take. She'd often tell her daughter, "Don't sit around and complain about things, do something." So, with that voice in her head, Kamala went out and she worked hard in school, graduating from an HBCU, earning her law degree at a state school. And then she went on to work for the people, fighting to hold lawbreakers accountable, strengthening the rule of law, fighting to get folks better wages, cheaper prescription drugs, a good education, decent health care, child care, elder care. From a middle-class household, Kamala worked her way up to become Vice President of the United States of America. My girl, Kamala Harris, is more than ready for this moment. She is one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency. And she is one of the most dignified. A tribute to her mother, to my mother, and to your mother too. The embodiment of the stories we tell ourselves about this country. Her story is your story. It's my story.
One of the most challenging issues Obama addressed was the division within the country. She called for unity and healing, acknowledging that this would not be easy. In philosophical terms, this is an appeal to the concept of social contract, where the survival of a society depends on its ability to find common ground and work together despite differences. Under a Harris administration, the potential for healing the nation's divisions becomes a tangible goal. Perhaps the most critical point in Obama's speech was her call to action to vote. She described voting not just as a right, but as a sacred duty, a moral obligation. This idea is rooted in civic philosophy, where participation in the democratic process is seen as essential to the health of the republic. By voting, we exercise our power to shape the future. It's a reminder that democracy is not a spectator sport. Reflecting on the legacy of the Obama administration, Michelle Obama reminded us of the progress made and the work that remains. This is a nod to historical consciousness, the understanding that we are part of a continuum and that the actions of today are linked to the struggles of the past and the aspirations for the future. A Harris presidency would continue this legacy, building on the progress and pushing forward toward greater equity and justice. Finally, Michelle Obama closed her speech with a message of hope. She reminded us that even in the darkest of times, hope has the power to inspire and mobilize. Hope, as a philosophical concept, is not just wishful thinking. It's an active force that drives us to create a better future. In the context of this election, hope is what will propel Kamala Harris to the presidency and move the nation toward a more just and equitable society. Let's go forward with the knowledge that our actions matter and that together we can make history. I'm Al Adams, and this is Japan Journal. Stay tuned for more insights and analysis as we continue to cover this pivotal election. And as we conclude tonight's episode of Japan Journal, let's reflect on the depth and breadth of Michelle Obama's speech. It was more than just a political endorsement. It was a profound statement on the state of our nation and the direction we must take to preserve its soul. For those of us who support Kamala Harris, this is a call to action, a reminder that the future is in our hands and that we must use our voices and our votes to shape it. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's go forward with the knowledge that our actions matter and that together we can make history. I'm Al Adams, and this is Japan Journal. Stay tuned for more insights and analysis as we continue to cover this historical and pivotal election. And I urge you to stay tapped into this platform, stay informed, and stay engaged as we keep up the fight. Because as Kamala Harris says, when we fight, we win. This is Mal Adams bidding you a good day and sayonara from Japan.
You're tuned to GNN, the Global News Network, a division of Totown Communications Company Limited. Totown presents Japan Journal. Japan Journal with Mal Adams, the internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan.